Hi everyone and welcome to this YouTube channel. In this video, we are going to talk about the top 15 places visit in London. So before starting this video, please like this video and subscribe to our channel future updates. I was just sitting there, listening to historians, politely bicker about the interpretation of events that shaped the city's history and half thinking about dinner when something made me sit up and pay some F*** king attention. You see, one of the guests, Claire Tomalin, casually threw out this statement. What? Look, the program was filled with all kinds of controversial points of view. 1. St. Paul's Cathedral. There's really only one question when it comes to St. Paul's Cathedral. Which is prettier, inside or out? Honestly, St. Paul's is one of those places you just take for granted on the London skyline. But if you really stop and look, you see just how striking Christopher Wren's domed cathedral is. That's all before you get inside too, where the beautifully haute clash of patterns, gilt and opulence come together to create one of London's most opulent spaces. 2. The Millennium Bridge. Like most Londoners, I was so busy taking the PSS out of the Millennium Bridge for the fact it had to be closed for another 2 years almost as soon as it opened because it wobbled so much that I really didn't pay attention to how striking the bridge was for years. The bridge provides the perfect frame for St. Paul's Cathedral, but is also pretty striking in and of itself. 3. Royal Naval College. The outside of the Royal Naval College in Greenwich is pretty enough. The buildings were designed by Christopher Wren and their sneaky symmetrical design meant that they didn't block the view of the river enjoyed by the Queen's house. Oh, to have such power. Still, it's inside the Royal Naval College where things get really jazzy. The Painted Hall is often referred to as London's Sistine Chapel, it's better, and the Chapel of St. Peter and St. Paul also does its own razzle-dazzle. Wow, that's pretty thing. 4. Queen's House. No, not that boring monstrosity Buckingham Palace. This Queen's House is in Greenwich, much prettier. And you're actually allowed inside. Once you've gotten over the neoclassical exterior, go inside where you'll find the much photographed tulip stair and some gorgeous palatial interiors. 5. Leighton House Museum. If you've never been to Leighton House Museum, let me tell you, you're missing out. Tucked away in a rather unassuming building in Holland Park, Leighton House boasts one of the most decadent interiors you can find in the city. I mean, what else would you expect from the former home of Sir Frederick Leighton, a prolific and moneyed Victorian artist and head of the Royal Academy of Arts? 6. Eltham Palace. Not much of the medieval part of the palace is still standing, but the buildings, many of which date from the 1930s when it was purchased by Sir Stephen and Lady Virginia Courtauld, are an Art Deco fantasy. Is it beautiful? In my mind, it's both, and all the better for it. 7. Nunhead Cemetery. Cemeteries are pretty divisive. For some people, the idea of spending any time in a cemetery outside of attending a funeral or paying respects at a grave is lunacy. For everyone else, there's Nunhead Cemetery. Nunhead Cemetery is what you get when you take one ornate Victorian cemetery, age it a century or so and then abandon it for a couple of decades. So nature can effectively re-wild large parts of it. 8. The Tate Britain. Light years away from the brutalist in-your-face architecture of the Tate Modern, the Tate Britain is delightful. Immerse yourself in the vast collection of art, but also take the time out to appreciate the fabulous buildings designed by Sidney R.J. Smith, which culminate in a jaw-dropping domed rotunda with a monochromatic terrazzo floor. 9. Goodwin's Court. Lots of people, including me, have waxed lyrical about the Victorian edifices in nearby Cecil Court near Covent Garden, but there's a much more hidden gem around the corner that really is like stepping back in time. Goodwin's Court is the land that time forgot. The gloomy light that filters from above illuminates a narrow alley of slightly bulging windows and Victorian gas lamps. No wonder it's said to have inspired J.K. Rowling to create Diagon Alley. 10. Hill Garden and Pergola. The well-manicured gardens of Hill Garden, complete with its elaborate pergolas, couldn't be further away from the unkempt beauty of the rest of Hampstead Heath, North London's wildest park. The once lavish pleasure gardens of the nearby Inverforth House and the former setting of many a high-end soirée now has an aura of faded grandeur that is enchanting and appealing in equal measure. 11. Streatham Rookery. It's not often that you can say that a place is truly hidden, but only a select few are in the know about Streatham's Rookery. Atop the rather unremarkable South London Park Streatham Common, the Rookery is a flower lover's delight. Arbor after arbor, trailing with fragrant roses, draped in wisteria. The Rookery dates back to 1913 and is based in one of the mineral spas that transformed Streatham from a rural backwater to one of the spa destinations of the 17th century. 12. Westminster Abbey. Like all naughty Londoners, it took me a long time to actually get round to seeing many of the city's most famous sights. Westminster Abbey was one of the many spots I used to rush past during those heady teenage years when I was, as always, late for my shift at the London Eye. Can you believe that I'd never had the chance to see how marvelous it is inside, until last year that is? It is rather ravishing. A hodgepodge of architectural styles and baubles, not to mention the setting for so many important historical events. 13. Westminster Cathedral. No, I'm not going mad, and no. Less well-known than its Protestant Westminster counterpart, the Roman Catholic Westminster Cathedral is hidden just around the corner from Victoria Railway Station. The Neo-Byzantine architecture is rather distinct. Plus there's a viewing tower from which you can stuff your eyes with bird's-eye views of London. 14. St. James's Park. Seeing as it's just across the road from Buckingham Palace, it kind of figures that St. James's Park is one of the most scenic places in London. Can you imagine if the Queen had to look at some barren wasteland each morning? Filled with romantic winding pathways and a peaceful lake, St. James's is a strong contender for the title of prettiest park in London. 15. Queen Mary's Gardens, Regent's Park. For the most part, Regent's Park leaves me a bit cold. It lacks the prettiness of St. James's Park or the can't believe I'm in a city herds of deer of Richmond Park. That said, Regent's Park does have a few heavy hitters up its sleeve, of which Queen Mary's Gardens is the best. Visit and you'll find yourself surrounded by London's largest collection of roses, over 12,000 of them in fact. Thanks for watching.